don't have it, you can just write it on the back of another piece of paper. You can just, what you need to do was simply list all the items you need to do your project. So it's just a list, and you can even list like things you need to do too if you want. But the most important thing for the list is all the items that you needed. So now, who doesn't have this now? You don't have it? Okay, you're just gonna use a piece of paper, that's fine.
I have an extra.
I can give you this one in a second.
I can just write it in.
Do you want a piece of paper?
Yeah, oh, she got a piece of paper, okay. But, okay, now, how many people have already filled it out? I see a couple people did.
That's mine.
So a couple people filled theirs out, so that's good.
What is that, Dad?
It's why I just explained it. It's a list of all the items you need to complete your project. So
Oh yeah, I filled it out, but it was only one thing.
No, it's a couple things, and I actually have it, and I have the receipt for the amount of money, and it's sitting on the table and I forgot it. So, but anyway, so what you need, so on your thing, Ben, you need or Chris, for yours, which you don't have, you needed the stuff like the mix for the cookies, and you needed the sweeteners and the butter and eggs and things like
Dad,
that.
I thought it was just the
No,
little
it's
things.
all those things, and I bought them, so you have it. And I have the receipt so you can figure out the money. So what you do is just that. So like for that example, you have all the ingredients that you need, and you put down how much it costs you to get the ingredients, and then you need to figure out how much of that it actually makes. So if we go to the next page, the page I just handed out, it says, it's this one here, says basic finance for your business, and then it has cost analysis. So the first thing is, what's the cost of all the items that you needed? That was the list that I gave you before to fill out. And if you added all those things up, and there was a total column if you did finish it, you add them up, or if you just know approximately, it would be a good idea you can just make a list and guess how much the things are for this example. So you figure out how much they cost. So it doesn't matter if it's $15 or $150. You just put down all those items, and that's the first thing. It says list all the items that you need, and then it has a blank over here on the right, and the blank with the dollar sign. You just put down what the total cost is for all those items. And then the next line, it says total all costs would be equal the cost of goods sold. See that? So the cost of goods sold is how much it costs you to get all those materials and stuff to make your items. So, and then you need to figure out how many items can you make with that. So for like the cookie example, you have all the dough and everything, and you can make like 200 cookies. So that's how many items you can make with it. So then you can figure out the average unit cost, which is the total cost of it divided by the amount of units that you can make. Okay, so if you just put it down what you have, and you can get your parents to help you with it if you need help with any of the math. There's no complicated math here. I mean, it's plus, minus, multiplication, and division. That's as complicated as it gets. But you do kind of want to figure out what the unit cost is. That's important. And then I also have here the per unit average cost. It doesn't really matter. The difference is one has some waste. For example, when you make a bunch of cookies, some of the ingredients might go further than others, so you actually would have spare ingredients you could use further. But that's not that important. But it is on the sheet if you want to do it. So who here, your bows, did you get all your stuff for the bows?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Do you know how much it's going to cost you?
Yeah.
Okay, how much approximately is it going to cost?
It's gonna cost about $25.
$25 to get this up, and how many bows can you make with that?
Like 40.
Wow, that's pretty good. Okay, so your cost is fairly low. I mean, for that, so it's like 60 cents or something. So you can actually do. I mean, that's pretty inexpensive. So that would be your unit cost. And then when we're trying to figure out what we're going to do for profit, do you know how much you're going to sell them for?
Just for $3.
$3? Okay, so that's good. So you'll have a couple dollars profit if everything goes well for each one that you have. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Good. So does anyone need help right now? Is anyone not following where we're at? want me to help you with yours or do an
Write it
example?
right
If you can, go ahead. So what do you got? How much is your total stuff?
now. I don't really know, because I don't think I was.
Oh, it's,
I have to add
understand.
this all up.
Yeah. You have to add all up. You don't have to necessarily do it now. If you
Math
just
is my worst subject, especially with projects.
But in the end, you need to know how much you're going to spend. One, you want to make sure that you price it at a reasonable price, and you want to make some profit during this, right? Because if your stuff came out and it cost you like $50, or like my other son back there, Ben, his stuff with the first aid supplies was over $150 for all his first aid supplies. So, and then he's got to put them in little kits and set it all up. But if he ends up selling them and he only gets $100 back and sells off all his materials, he's lost a lot of money. Then he owes me $50. But so that's the idea. So you want to make sure that you're selling them for enough, and you also want to understand how much that is. And we'll get to some more details here. So, okay, in the real world, you have to worry about other overhead and stuff like the cost of your building, the rent, utilities, and stuff. Obviously, you guys don't have to worry about that. It's a note on there, though. Okay, so how much did it make? This is another thing. You need to figure out how long it takes to do something with a repetitive thing. So, for example, with the bows, how long does it take you to make one bow from the materials that you have? Okay, or for the cookies, how long does it take to make a batch or 2 batches or 3 batches of cookies? So you need to kind of do like a sample run or figure it out, or you can just estimate at this point. At this point, you can use all estimates, and then when you're really doing it, you can figure it out. But you know, it may take you 15 minutes to do a batch of cookies, and then that's a batch, so then you have to figure out how many are in a batch. In his thing, he could do it for each bow, so one bow may take him 5 minutes, may take him a half hour, I don't know. So he needs to figure that out, and like the batch of cookies, if it took 30 minutes and it makes 30 cookies, it's taking an average of a minute a cookie. Okay, and then you take that along with what you're getting from it, so what your cost difference is. If you made $1 a cookie, and it takes you a minute a cookie, if you're charging $1 and you have 50 cents, then you're actually making 50 cents a minute, right? For every minute that you work. So that means you're making $30 an hour, not including actual sales time and marketing and stuff, but your actual working time setting it up, you're making $30 an hour just for the production portion. So that would be pretty good. Depending on how much, like I said, realistically you'd want to include how much it costs for how long you were out marketing, how long you were setting everything up, and then the actual selling process as well. And that's important, one, to see if it's worthwhile. So when you're done with this, not only do you want to have some profit, it's how much time did you put into it and how much profit did you get back. So that's what you want to know. So if you put 4 hours into it and you made, you know, $50, that's not bad, right? You know, you're making like $12.50 an hour for the time that you put in. But if you put 20 hours into this and you only make, you know, $10, then that probably isn't worth it. And you would need to make some adjustments in your process. Either try to save money or charge more if you think you can, or do something, or you may just say, well, this isn't worth doing, I'm going to try something different next time. So everyone understand that? Right? Because we want to make a profit, and you want to make it reasonable though. Just because you make some money doesn't mean that it's worthwhile, especially if there's something else you can do. The other thing is, if you have it, now I know before they said focus on one item, you know, and we all said you can do more. The marketing person that was here the other day said focus on one. But if you do multiple items, you can do this for each item and figure out which one has the best profit margins, which one's giving you the most money for the time that you're putting in, right? And that's where you'd want to focus in the future. You may want to drop things off. If you're spending a lot of time and you're only making 50 cents an hour on one product, but your other products, so like on yours, maybe you had hair gel and what was your other one?
I'm only focusing on one.
I know, but if you did two, what were your two
Slime.
thoughts? The slime? Okay, so if you did both of them, and then you compare the cost for each of them, the time it takes, and then when you sell it, you could compare and see, okay, well, one of them I'm making 50 cents an hour and the other one I'm making, $20 an hour, you either need to make adjustments on the one that you're not making as much, or you just drop it and you focus on the item that makes you more money. So, and that's good to do when you're starting off. If you have several ideas, you can actually work multiple ones and kind of see which things sell better, which things make more money, which things are harder. It may be a time thing. Maybe one you actually make more money. One of them, maybe you're doubling your money. It costs you like $2 to do and you're selling it for $4. But if it takes you a lot of hours, like I don't know how long the bows take. If they take you an hour to put each one together, making $2 on each one may not feel worth it in the end. So you have to take your own time into consideration. So it is important, and that's what this helps you do. It helps you figure out then when you have your units, how long it takes, then it calculates how much you get per hour of your time. That's what's on the formula here, and that helps you make good business decisions, whether it's worth it, whether you need to make changes, and you can review your process with it. The next piece on here, and we'll go over all this, I'll try to help you and we'll try to sit down and have you guys go through it and just do an estimate on yours, even if you don't know exactly. And we can all kind of help you with what things might cost and stuff, because most of us could probably give you a reasonable guess on what something would cost. Okay, so the last part is figuring out how much money you're gonna make overall. So, and some of this is just a vocabulary thing, so don't get too caught up on the words. They're here for educational purposes more than the details. But your revenue, that's your total sales. That's all the money that you bring in when you're selling this stuff. And then it has then income. Your income is when you take the revenues and you subtract out all your operating expenses. In your case, it's the cost of your goods sold. So all the money that you spent to buy all the stuff, you need to subtract that from the money that people gave you, because that's not actually profit. You didn't make any money there. You just broke even if you did that. Hopefully you have earnings above that. So the income is how much you have after you separate your expenses, and then your earnings are when you take out taxes and interest and pay back your loan and stuff, which you don't have to worry about those things. So the things that are italicized, which are the leaning letters, are things that are there for your information, but you don't have to really worry about them for this project. Then something that we wanted to discuss with you, which it matters more after this project's done, you've counted up all your money, you figured out how much you made, is your retained earnings and your profit. So your retained earnings is, if you do this whole project and it costs you a certain amount of money to do it, you make a certain amount of money, what do you do with that money in the end? So, go ahead.
You either use it, or if your parents help you get the money to buy the supplies, you usually have to pay back your parents.
Yep, you have to pay back your parents and stuff, which kind of comes into the earnings thing. You have to pay back your investors and everything for their portion. Then you still have two options basically to do with your money, and that is you can keep some as retained earnings, which really would be buying more inventory. So for him, it would be like, he did really well here, he sold off all his bows, he goes out and he uses some of his profit to buy more supplies to make more bows and sells them to his friends or people in other places. So that would be retained earnings. You keep it and you reinvest the money back in your company. And then, of course, the other thing is you take your profit. So that's the money you pay yourself in the end that you get to keep and go out and spend on candy or whatever you want. But of course, once you do that, if you spend all your money, you wouldn't have money to keep doing this. And obviously in a regular business, you want to make this where it can keep going and is self-sustaining. So a certain amount of the money that you make, you would take to buy more supplies and other things, so you can continue making more and selling them. So if you want to start selling, so like if you're doing the jewelry, if you do it for this thing, who was doing jewelry? Wasn't someone?
She's not here.
Oh, she's not here? Okay. Well, for like the jewelry though, it's something you could sell at school, right? Theoretically, you make it here, you do well, you could go to school, you could sell off the jewelry. And then you could keep doing it. So you could take the profits from here to buy more beads and things, whatever you're using to make your jewelry, and you actually go out and buy more, and you could actually buy a broader variety, things that maybe you didn't get before. You can get other types. Just like on the cookies, you could reinvest. Maybe he was focused more on chocolate chip now or something, but he could diversify and get multiple types of cookies and find other places to sell them. But to do that, you need to keep some of your money to buy more ingredients or things to keep going. So that's something you always have to consider. if you take too much of your profits out, it ends your business. So, anyone have any questions on any of this? No? Okay, so let's take it from the top and try and go through with everybody and see if you guys can do this stuff. So